Hello and welcome to February's edition of the Lead Out, Cycling Weekly's monthly racing show. My name is Paul Knott and this month I'm joined with Alex Ballinger, Cycling Weekly news writer, and Yanto Barker, former pro and founder of Lecole. Before we get into this month's stories, let's take a look back on the headlines from the previous few weeks. Richie Porte took his 6th win in a row on Willunga Hill, the Tour Down Under. However, it wasn't enough to take overall victory as Darren P took his 2nd victory in as many years. Winner Anacona took the Vuelta San Juan title, beating out Julian Alaphilippe, who took 2 stage wins during the Argentinian stage race. However, this was ridden against the backdrop of controversy for the Belgium team. Dan McClay was the first British winner of 2019, taking stage 1 of the Herald Sun Tour in Australia. For Owain Doull followed up with more British success, winning his first pro race on stage 3, as Team Sky took a 1-2 with Luke Rowe coming home in 2nd. The race organisers of Liège-Bastogne-Liège have announced a new finish to the Monument Classic, taking out the hilltop finish in Ons and moving to the centre of Liège, meaning the final climb will come 15 kilometres before the finishing line. And finally, the first rider to be born in the 21st century has won a pro-level race, as Biniam Grame took the 3rd stage of La Tropicale in Gabon. So now that we all feel quite old after that last bit of news, let's move on to one of the main stories from last month. It was mentioned in the headlines there. Richie Porte, back on form, as always, winning on Willunga Hill. I mean, we mentioned last month, he can't seem to stop winning up the hill.
I think he happened upon the correct way to ride that climb. Just happens to be perfectly suited to him, and he's done exactly the same ever since, because it's no secret what he's going to do. He literally just goes and rides from the bottom.
It's the same spot every time that the attack comes in as well, and for some reason, I mean, from the outside it seems sort of daft that he can attack in the same place every time, and tactically, not a genius move by any means, but no one seems to be able to follow him at all, do they? It's just, you know, what Paul's has been trying for years and was close this year, actually, to be fair, wasn't it? It was close, but it's just not quite enough to catch him.
There's a weird psychological thing as well, because then you end up starting to go a bit early. So you go the climb before, thinking, oh, really trying to stretch it out and, you know, get the team with some cracks in it and that kind of thing. And that usually just makes your position weaker, because the most optimal way is to just conserve everything till the last.
He came out afterwards and said about his rest of the year, it's quite interesting how he's taken a bit of a more relaxed approach and not going to be riding, well, he's not going to be racing as much, focusing more on training. So he's riding a Paris-Nice later on, so in March, but that is going to be pretty much it. Yeah,
he's taken quite a laid-back attitude this year, and I think that's one of the reasons why he wanted to sign with Trek. He recently said in an interview that Trek aren't only about the Tour de France, that if you win other races, you've still had a really good year, which I think in the past he's been so singularly focused on winning the Tour, and that has been hyped up a lot in the newspapers and magazines and everything, as you'd expect, because he is a potential Tour de France winner. But I think that it could be the right attitude to take, where you think, right, look, I've won a couple of stage races this year. This is still a really good year. And then you can head into the Tour with a more laid-back attitude than previous years, I think.
Personally, I think it's suitable to certain types of rider. He is someone who can train himself into form. Not everybody can do that. Like Valverde likes to race. He just likes to race. He can train as well, obviously, he's very talented. But certain riders just don't quite have the mentality to set themselves apart and go out on your own. You know, just do your training, tick off the miles, and he just prefers to race and you know, do it like that. But Richie Porte clearly can do it anyway, I think, so he'll enjoy it more.
No, exactly. I mean, I know you mentioned just then, the magazine, the media will ask if he can win the Tour de France or Grand Tour, and that's exactly what we did on Twitter, just because, you know, we've got to ask, and we found out that, so the question was, do you think that Richie Porte can win a Grand Tour, not just the Tour de France? And 24% said yes, and 76% said no.
Porte's 34 now, and so he's now at the same age as Cadel Evans was when he won in 2011, the only Australian Tour de France winner ever. I mean, that probably, you know, that's not the sort of thing that you want to be taking into the Tour de France. If you're Porte, you don't want to be thinking, oh, this is my last chance, I'm 34 now, this is when Cadel did it. But it does go to show that he's not too old by any means to win the Tour de France. I think that's what people's main, you know, with a poll like that, I think that's what people's main thoughts will be, that he's at this age now, he's not had that many sort of really close attempts at the Tour, and people are going to be thinking, well, is he getting too old for it? But it goes to show not at all necessarily.
I thought the poll reflected my own thoughts and sentiment on it, not for necessarily the same reasons. I just think it's a very particular type of rider. He is so good at a week, and he can time his efforts really well. So there's obviously a fatigue that comes in day 2, day 3, day 4, and then 6, 7 and 8, you know, that's like standard week stage race. He does that so well, but then to do that second week, third week, that's a different type of physiological makeup, you know, the Froomes of the world. And I wonder, can he do that to the same high standard that he does it for a week? And that's where my sort of hesitancy for him winning the Tour just comes in, because you can't have any bad days.
No, exactly. So, I mean, moving on to the Vuelta San Juan, we saw a very interesting race for many factors. Deceuninck, Quickstep, they had good and the bad. I mean, we'll start with the bad, and the Ilio Kaiser's photo that came out. Was it during the race? But I mean, the photo was taken before the race of him mimicking a sex act at a woman, not with. I'm going to be very clear, at a woman. And the ramifications from that, I mean, you pretty much are writing a story every 4 hours, pretty much. So you know it probably better than bet. I mean, they kind of seem to add fuel to the fire with their apologies, non-apologies, and where that went.
It was an absolute mess, basically. The way it was, obviously, Kaiser acted inappropriately towards a fan who wanted a picture, which is something that any fan of any sport, you know, has put themselves in that position. They've gone up to someone and approached someone who is, you know, a couple of heroes of the sport, one of the best teams in the world. Some may say the best team in the world, and Kaiser's just acted completely inappropriately towards her, and he apologised very quickly as soon as I mean, to be fair, it was when it came out in the media that he then apologised. So he had the team started by handling it very well. I thought Kaiser apologised. It wasn't a non-apology. He said he was sincerely sorry and had a press conference and spoke to the world's media, and went and spoke to the police as well. But then it all seemed to take a bit of a turn from there when Patrick Lefevre decided to weigh in from Belgium and threatened to throw the toys out of the pram, basically, didn't he? Yeah,
I think that's where it really went backwards for them, where they could have nipped it in the bud. And I'm really sorry, riders gone home, riders get disqualified from races. It's not uncommon. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why that happens. But as soon as you then start having in team principal, and then obviously that drags in your sponsors, your main sponsors, your title sponsors, all those guys who've got obviously public interest to make sure that they're not associated with anything negative like this. You know, as fans of the sport and as the father of a daughter, you know, you just cannot. There is absolutely no place for that in sport, let alone cycling. And it should have just been really sorry, move on as quickly as we can, and not get any more negative about it. But that's not what happened.
No, exactly. Overshadowed, actually, a very positive week on the road for Deceuninck Quickstep. Julian Alaphilippe came second overall, 2-stage wins. And we actually got a short interview with him from our Roman reporter, Gregor Brown. So let's go check that out right now.
Julian Alaphilippe, how are you going to look back on this Vuelta San Juan?
Yeah, I felt good almost every day except the Queen stage, because with the altitude I knew that it will be difficult to keep the jersey, especially with a stronger Movistar team. So I just tried to do my best, and it was not a big disappointment, because I came here with some ambition to win some stage, and we will see. And at the end I won 2 stages and second in the GC. So yeah, I'm really happy to start the season on this way, and already looking forward for the next races.
Here you raced with 19-year-old Remco Evenepoel. What did you think about his debut? He already looks strong.
Yeah, he's really a nice guy, you know. I was happy to share, to be part of the team for his first race as professional. He's a good kid, you know, already really strong, with a good mentality, and he take already the first distinctive jersey, so it's a good start for him. And also he helped me a lot in the Queen stage, Alto de Colorado. He did a really good job, like all the team. So I think he have a good future, and it's already a good start for him.
So there we had Julian Alaphilippe talking about the young sensation that is Remco Evenepoel, who had a pretty impressive debut. I mean, we mentioned like when we've been chatting, his form last year in the juniors was incredible, and to step up to the World Tour is just even more incredible.
I think there's a few people maybe wanting to question whether he can be as talented in the World Tour as he has been in the junior ranks, but from what I saw of Vuelta San Juan, he was doing whatever he wanted already, just getting stuck in. I'm pretty sure that would have been his job for the week. Get stuck in, find your feet, work out where you are compared to everyone else, and we'll review that after we finish the race and see what position you hold in the team in whatever races you're getting selected for.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see how they handle him, because I know I spoke to Brian Holm at last year's training camp when they signed James Knox, obviously a very young rider, but still, I think he was like a few years older than Evenepoel is now. I asked him, what's his plans? Like, are they going to put any pressure on him to like race anything? He was like, no, just want him to ride. He's not paid to do that. He's paid to just ride. But obviously with Evenepoel now, I'm sure they're giving him the same freedom, but he is
no, they can't give him the same freedom, because he can go and really screw up the tactics, because he's that strong and good enough to actually go up the road when he shouldn't be. So he's going to need a little bit more structure and guidance around making sure that his on the race day plan doesn't conflict with team tactics,
which is just crazy in itself, that like this young guy is suddenly straight in
could
there.
Could be scuppering his long-standing team leaders.
Which is just incredible in itself. But so yeah, moving on, kind of spreading across the races, we had a good look at pretty much every single sprinter in the pro peloton, and pretty much all of them that raced have picked up a win, which is what they would have wanted. I mean, starting with Elio Viviani at Tour Down Under, did what he does, just kind of.
I'm glad we called that before it happened. It made it look like we knew what we were talking about, but no, he's super talented and clearly coming out in 2019 with the same class he left in 2018.
Yeah, first win of the year in the first stage of the Tour Down Under. It's always a big win to get that pressure off immediately, because I know a lot of sprinters come into it to sort of test their form, but it is really nice to get that win for a sprinter really early doors.
I mean, Yanto, when you were a rider this first race of the season, what was it like mentally just to get good vibes going? Maybe like, I know you weren't an out-and-out sprinter at this level, but obviously trying to get good performances under your belt. What does that mean for the rest of the whole season?
It's slightly subjective to who you are. Some people need more regular, reminders that they're good enough and they're on the right track and they're going in the right direction. Other people can work with slightly longer, delayed gratification. It's always nice to get a number on your back after months and months of training, even if you've been somewhere warm. It's a bit sloggy and kind of you're never quite exactly sure where you sit in the hierarchy, and to get a number on your back, it's a win, job done, thanks very much, and you can then sort of set the marker at a decent level and move up from there.
Yeah, exactly. And Marcel Kittel as well picked up a win at Challenge Mallorca, which I think for him will be huge, because I mean he had a pretty disastrous.
He had a tough year last year.
And,
yeah, it was a change of teams as well for him. He went from Quickstep, who, in terms of lead-outs, in terms of sprint, are the team that you want to be with to win stages. They will pretty much win you the stage before you've even got to the sprint. And when you've got someone like Kittel on the end of it, he, best sprinter in the world on many occasions.
Did you see how he did it as well? I mean, he led that out. He did literally 300 metres on the front with guys on the wheel in the, fully in the slipstream, and just couldn't even get close enough to move out. So
yeah, and it was a strong field as well. You might look at Challenge Mallorca and think, oh, how strong are the field of sprinters there? But I mean, you've got Greipel there, who's there with his new team, so he's settling in. But then also John Degenkolb, Alexander Kristoff. So these are guys that he's going to be racing against throughout the year, and he's set the benchmark early.
Yeah, good way to start. So one sprinter we haven't mentioned, we've actually got an in-depth interview with him right now, is Fernando Gaviria. So we'll go back to Gregor and see what Fernando has to say.
Fernando Gaviria, really great start to the season, already a couple wins in the bag. What's the best way to start a year for a sprinter?
Yeah, really great start season, because 2 weeks in 2 sprints is really good, really good for the team, new team, and I'm enjoying the victories with the team. I'm really happy with my condition now.
Compared to the last years, compared to say 2018, how are you going?
No, also 2018 I have good legs in this moment, but in the race one crash, go home, and then a little bit difficult for the training. But okay, this year is like the same condition, but okay, we try for no crash, and then can training good at home, and then go to good condition in Europe.
And so UAE, Team UAE Emirates, you're gelling well with the team. You had a good winter, and now you're kicking it off well here.
Yeah, with the team, with the UAE Team Emirates, is really good now because the atmosphere is really, really nice, and I'm enjoy every day with the team, and I'm happy with the start of the season like that because it's more relaxed for everybody. It's the stress for the start of the season well, and now it's more easy because the start season is really good.
Ferrari, Consoni, you have a lot of good men to lead you out this year. Later on, you'll be joined up with Christoph as well.
Yeah, I have really good riders in the team for the lead out for the train, and also Christoph is really good rider, really strong, and we'll see what happens when we go together in the race.
What are the goals this year? What are the big goals?
It's a lot because I want to win a lot of races this year with the team, and I want to win one really big classic.
So that was Fernando Gaviria speaking to Gregor Brown, and as he mentioned there, he is not only just targeting the Grand Tours this year, but wants to get one big classic win. And having been injured last year it was this same race last year that he
exactly a year ago
that he got his first win. He has the talent clearly to do it.
I think he's really going to be the sprinter to watch this year. I mean, he was last year as well. He's just so good. But he's won every single one of his first races since 2015, which for a sprinter is an absolutely phenomenal feat.
I think for him as well, there was a question mark about going to the new team and whether he would have the support. But I think what I wanted to say about that was actually him being so talented and so good is galvanising the team behind him to give a little bit more than maybe they've ever given before and actually pull together, because he's still getting guys coming in 4th, 5th in the sprints after doing the lead out. So that clearly shows, he's got, horsepower close enough to be there right into the finale, who are still running a position, just rolling to the line. So I would say, I think 2019 is going to be one of the most exciting years for him, for Gaviria this year, definitely.
It's now time for our 30-second effort. There is one sprinter that we have yet to talk about, Mr. Mark Cavendish. He returned to racing this week after 6 months off the bike. And the question I'm going to ask you two guys is, will Mark Cavendish match, beat or fall short of Eddy Merckx's Tour de France stage wins record? So he is currently on 30 stage wins, whereas Eddy Merckx is on 34. So Alex, I believe you have been given the chance to say that he is not going to break the record. So you've got 30 seconds on the clock and your time starts now.
Yeah, it's an extremely tricky one. I think he probably is just going to fall short, and I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with Cavendish's sprinting per se. I think that he is still absolutely fast enough to win stages of the Tour de France, but I think the competition that he's now going to be facing from the sprinters that we've just mentioned is going to be just absolutely phenomenal. They're so fast, younger guys, and I think it's a sort of shifting in the guard now that I think to get 4 stages when these guys are going to be scooping them up.
You can finish. I'll give you like 2 seconds. That was 30 seconds. I'll give you 2 seconds if you just want to finish that sentence, because that was quite nicely rounded out.
So I think he's just going to fall just a little bit short, just because of these younger guys and how fast they're going to be.
That's it. 2 seconds. I said 2 seconds. No more. No more.
Always going for more.
So Yanto, you have been given the nice job of saying that he is going to be here. So you've got 30 seconds on the clock, and away you go.
So I think Mark Cavendish will beat the record. He's proven that he can come back from quite a long way back before. He's obviously had a really tough last 6 months. He's moving into a much more solid phase. He's been training well and moving forward in his preparation. And I did see on his Instagram actually that he says fall down 7 times, get up 8 times. And I think that really nicely encapsulates what he's about, and don't underestimate the drive, motivation and ambition that he has to be and leave a legacy in the sport and be that winner.
You can tell that Yanto's done
absolutely nailed that.
30 seconds, bang on. So, I mean, that was 2 strong arguments. We also asked our Twitter followers once again, and we gave them 3 options if he was going to tie it, beat it, or just miss out. And 65% said he was just going to miss out. 23% said he was going to break the record, and 12% said he was going to be tied on 34 wins with Eddy Merckx. I mean, only time will tell, but it'll be exciting to see anyway. Moving on to this month's racing, we've got 2 quite big races coming up. First of all, the UAE Tour, which you are actually going to yourself, Alex. Quite an exciting field.
It is quite an amazing field actually. I mean, we've got Chris Froome, we've got Tom Dumoulin, I think we've got Alejandro Valverde as well, Rowan Dennis. It's going to be a really, really strong field of sort of quite a lot of different styles of rider as well, which is quite surprising for this race because it has traditionally attracted, or in previous iterations of it, because it used to be the Dubai Tour and Abu Dhabi Tour separately. They've now combined it into one race. So it used to be one mostly for the sprinters, I would say, with some punchy guys doing quite well there as well on the stage to the Hatterdam at the Dubai Tour. But it's going to be the first time that a lot of the GC contenders really get together and test their form in the early season under some pretty testing conditions, I think, as well.
Definitely kind of more historically for the sprinters. I mean, they race on such massive roads that there's always like a good exercise of a lead out. So it's nice to be able to have your full chance. So sometimes you get to a race where the roads are a bit narrow and you can actually just all get boxed in and you actually can't execute the lead out as you wanted to, whereas quite often you are on 6-lane highways. There is always enough room. But like you said, with the combining of the two races, it's changed the format slightly, but I still think it will be an exciting race, but there'll still be a lot of sprinters.
Yeah, and so moving from the hot weather to somewhat colder back in Europe to the opening weekend of the Classics. Got Omloop, Het Nieuwsblad and Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne. Obviously 2 races that you've competed in the past. What is it like, that opening weekend in cycling?
Probably the opposite to the Emirates, in that the fever, the fritz, the beer, the fans, the excitement and the prestige you feel as a rider on the road in front of all those people is about as, literally gives me goosebumps thinking back to it. Every single climb is absolutely packed. Every single finish, every single town has got full of people, kids clapping, all that stuff. Never underestimate how much noise little kids can make, even though they're tiny. They scream their little lungs out. And you hear it as you go past, you absorb it, the atmosphere and everything, and it's a perfect kind of way to start European racing, even though it is a bit colder.
Yeah. So as we reach the end of our show, I've tried to come up with a whimsical name for this, but I'm just going to put it out there. Have you got any other business or anything else you'd like to say that you liked or you're looking forward to, or?
I checked out the Cyclocross World that happened this weekend. I watched every race that I could actually on Eurosport, and nice. Some good watching actually. Usually cyclocross is not usually my sport, I tend to follow the road stuff, but I think this time having some personalities that have done some stuff on the road was worth watching. And there were some good races. Actually, the best race in the end was the elite women's that I saw. That was the closest race, and there was some really decent battles in there. And Lucinda Brand got taken out by her own dad in the pits and stuff. So it was
interesting.
It was.
And British success.
We had some British success as well.
I'm going to say that one day, but British success.
British glory.
Tom Pidcock.
Yeah, so we had Ben Tellett won the juniors. Dominant performance. He sort of shot off the front after lap 4, just rode solo to the line really consistently, really strong, knew what he was doing. Tom Pidcock is just the most stylish winner in cycling at the moment, I think. He's just looks super cool, makes it look easy, and again went off the front at lap 4. It's almost as if they both planned it or something.
And we've also got the return of Mr. Chris Froome, Inga Bernal, Geraint Thomas, some mildly big names returning to racing as well.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be excited to see where they start, because what you've got to remember now is where they sort of begin the season is going to affect the politics and confidence and backing and just a little bit of niggles, in the back of your mind. Am I there? Was I in the same sort of place this time last year? Because there's quite a lot riding on it for Team Sky and Froome and Thomas. It will start now.
Yeah, and it won't stop until we get to the Tour and probably beyond and beyond as well. Lovely. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Yanto.
Thank you very much.
And make sure you subscribe to the Cycling Weekly channel and leave us a comment in the section below with any suggestions you'd like us to report on next month, or any predictions you have for the racing as well. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next month.